Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us loving as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace and beneficence to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good evening, everyone, and namaste. Welcome to our Tuesday evening class where we're studying and discussing the life and, as it turns out, the passing away of Sri Sarada Devi. In this wonderful book, Sri Sarada Devi, Her Divine Play, very carefully crafted by Swami Chaitananda. So before we begin, is there anything left over from last week that anyone wants to bring up? Anything at all that you would like to say or ask about what we have discussed previously? All right, dears. Well, our very loving and capable reader, Haima, will tell us where we are, and then she'll begin.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Good evening, everyone. Namaste. And we are on page 745 from the top of the page. I will start at the top. The curtain of the last scene in the mother's divine drama was about to drop. Kala Azar consumed her life slowly over a period of several months. The doctors lost hope. The devotees kept hope alive till the end, but no one can withstand providence. Swami Ishanananda left a record of the mother's last days. Sister Sarada, Mandakini, Brother Rashbihari, and I were sharing the responsibility for the mother's care. Mahamaya Mitra and the girls of the Nivedita school, Gadai, Malati, Sulata, Nandarani, Paki, Meera, and Sudhira. They all fanned the mother by turns. Brother Rashbihari took care of the doctors and medicine. Someone brought fresh milk from Dr. Karthik's house at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I boiled that milk over a wood-burning stove, adding an equal amount of water and evaporating the water portion. According to the Ayurvedic doctor's instruction, I prepared whey from some of the milk and also barley for the mother's diet. Generally, my duty at noon was to be with the mother and look after her. When the doctors came, she asked me to give them prasad. Sister Sarada prepared rice and administered the medicine and food at the right time. Mandakini washed the mother's clothes, cleaned the utensils and room, and fanned her. M sent his wife, Nikunja Devi, to serve the mother. She helped in the kitchen and fanned the mother in the evening. M came to see the mother every evening. Holy Mother's childish petulance went on.
Just a moment, dear. Just because this man who went by the name M may not be known to everyone who's with us this evening, M was the recorder and transcriber of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Mahendranath Gupta. Mahendranath Gupta. Mahendranath Gupta. But he just went by the initial M. Such was his humility, because, as Sri Ramakrishna said, this man is my instrument. So he didn't make anything of himself. He was very humble. So this is, but you can see how devoted he was to the mother to come every evening. Anything else while we're paused? Anything from anyone? All right, dear, please go ahead.
Holy Mother's childish petulance went on. One morning, she said to me, "My son, don't go away from me. Always stay here. Sarala bothers me very much. Always the same stick thermometer and the same word eat. I will not eat anything from her hand, nor allow her to come near." She began to show this annoyance more and more. Sharat Maharaj was worried. In the morning, he came to the mother, sat near her bed, took her hand on his lap, and began to stroke her head and brush the hair away from her forehead. He said to her in a wheedling voice, as if she were a child, "Mother, Sarala is very much hurt. She will not put the stick under your arm again. This is your eating time. Who will feed you?" Sharat Maharaj said to me, "Barada, bring the milk in the feeding cup. This time I shall feed the mother." The mother said, "Why should you take the trouble? Barada will feed me. Bring the milk, Barada, I will drink it." As soon as I poured the milk into her mouth, the mother gave a start. The milk was a little too hot. Lest Sharat Maharaj and I feel badly about it, she said, "Never mind, cool the milk a little. Barada can feed me very well." This mood of the mother continued for a couple of days. Sharat Maharaj changed our duties. Sister Sarala prepared the food, and I and Mandakini fed her. That noon, Sharat Maharaj called me into his room and, stroking my head, tenderly told me, "Barada, you are very fortunate. Today the mother on her own took the food from you and thus made you her real attendant. Serve the mother carefully. Learn all the details well from Sarada." At this time, the mother used to eat soft boiled rice, milk, boiled ripe mango, and sugar mashed together. After a couple of days, when the mother's mood became calm, we started to do our work as before. As it is impossible for the snow-clad mountain to lose its coolness, or the blazing fire to lose its heat, so it was unthinkable for Holy Mother to hurt anyone. Sarala mentioned earlier how she was hurt by the mother, and after a while, how her wounded feeling melted away when the mother took her head on her bosom as a blessing. Tears flowed from Sarala's eyes, and she resumed her usual duties. Towards the end, the mother hurt Sarala's feelings a couple of times, which was extremely unusual for her. We do not know why, but we can guess. Perhaps Holy Mother was a little irritated by her prolonged illness, or as Sarala was her main caretaker, the mother wanted to eradicate her ego forever. Ramakrishna smashed M's ego so that he could be the recorder of his gospel.
Hold on just a moment. If
Sure.
you read the early part, when M first comes to the master, you'll understand what was meant by the remark that Sri Ramakrishna smashed M's ego. It is a remarkable story, and it's so remarkable that M withstood it and remained faithful because of his attraction to the master. It really is quite a story. So I encourage anyone to read the very first part of the gospel, the narrative, in which M tells this story. And he tells it on himself, you know. So, all right, dear, please go ahead.
Sure. Ramakrishna smashed the MC ego so that he could be the recorder of his gospel. Perhaps the mother hurt Sarala so that she could dive more deeply within her inmost self. Holy Mother knew that in the future, Sarala would have a great responsibility. She would be the head of her order, Sarada Mat. Holy Mother had tremendous love for her and faith in her capabilities.
No, this was 34 years later. Holy Mother left the body in 1920. Sarada Mat was not formed as an official organization, an official convent and function of the Ramakrishna order, Sarada Mat, until 1954. So it was 34 years later, all these years later, but Holy Mother foresaw what would happen. This is what Swami Chaitanananda says. So we can imagine it would be so. Anything else from anyone while we're paused? All right, dear.
Holy Mother knew that in the future, Sarala would have a great responsibility. She would be the head of her order, Sarada Mat. Holy Mother had tremendous love for her and faith in her capabilities. In this world, a person shares joy and success with those whom he or she loves most, and also tries to release their stress and agony. The mother was tired of eating a bland diet, and she lost the ability to taste anything. One day, she asked her attendant to give her some puffed rice and fried gram, which she had eaten in her village as refreshments. The attendant obeyed the mother's order, but informed Swami Saradananda about it. The Swami knew that this food would be like poison to her, so he immediately went to the mother. When she saw him, Holy Mother hid the bowl behind her back like a little girl. The Swami told her with folded hands, "Mother, I'm begging you to give me that bowl." She handed it over without protest. For her own welfare, Saradananda took food out of her mouth, and this pained him greatly. After Holy Mother passed away, Saradananda overcame that sorrow by feeding Swami Brahmananda some puffed rice and fried gram.
Now, isn't they so much did these swamis, great souls? Saradananda was said by Sri Ramakrishna to be a direct disciple of Christ. Such a great soul is he. And he identified Swami Brahmananda, Rakal, as mother called him, his pre-monastic name, identified him with the mother. So much was there. He was the spiritual son. Brahmananda, Rakal, Raja Maharaj, as he was familiarly known, was the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. And so identified with those beings was Brahmananda, that Saradananda overcame his sorrow by feeding Brahmananda some puffed rice and gram. How sweet is that? Anything else from anyone while we're paused? Okay, please go ahead, dear.
After Holy Mother passed away, Saradananda overcame that sorrow by feeding Swami Brahmananda some puffed rice and fried gram. There is a side note for this particular incident, Brother
Yes,
Shankara.
please.
I will read that. Swami Bhumananda's eyewitness account. After the mother's passing away, Swami Brahmananda came to visit Udbodhan house. Sharath Maharaj bowed down to Maharaj and said, Maharaj, when the mother was ill, one day she was about to eat puffed rice and fried gram. Hearing that news, I went to her, begged that food from her, and did not allow her to eat it. Today I want to feed you puffed rice and fried gram, and thus I shall fulfill my wish of feeding the mother. Maharaj said with a smile, all right, bring puffed rice and fried gram, and I shall eat it. Maharaj began to joyfully eat puffed rice and fried gram, and Sharath Maharaj tearfully watched, placing both hands on his chest. When Maharaj finished eating, Sharath Maharaj's face beamed with joy. Sharath Maharaj told us many times, the master and the mother dwell in Maharaj. You must know that by serving him, you are serving the master and the mother.
Bah.
We had a glimpse of the truth of this statement that day by observing Sharath Maharaj's satisfaction in feeding puffed rice and fried gram to Maharaj Swami Saradananda, Jiman Dekhayachi by Swami Bhumananda. That's that side note for that, Brother Shankara.
Thank you so very much for finding it and reading it, dear.
Sure. Now I'm going to go back to the 747 top of the page. Swami Saradeshananda described the Holy Mother during her last days. The mother's health had completely broken down. She could not move. The master's altar had been removed from her room, and she was lying on a mattress on the floor. We had all lost hope and were anticipating the worst at any moment. Early one evening, I went to find that the mother's women attendants had helped her to sit up and were supporting her. With their help, the mother raised her hands and bowed down towards the master. Her beautiful round arms, which had bestowed on us so many boons and assurances, were now reduced to mere skin and bones. I could not keep looking at them for long. Those hands by which the mother had blessed her children, served prasad and food to them with love and affection. Now what awful condition they were in. Those beautiful bangles, which the mother had always worn, had now become so loose that they were tied to her wrists with strings. Seeing this, Balaram's daughter had a pair of bangles made fit for a small girl and put them on the mother's wrists instead. They were with the mother till the very end, and even when the last rites on her pure body were performed. Towards the end, monks and devotees rushed to Udbodhan house from near and far to have a last glimpse of Holy Mother. But they all assembled downstairs because no one was allowed to see her. When Holy Mother's attendant informed her of the innumerable visitors, the compassionate mother said in a feeble voice, my child, those who have come to see me, those who have not, and those who will come in the future, tell them that my love and blessings will be bestowed on each of them.
Now, we are among those who have come in the future. So please read that blessing again, dear. It is so touching. She acknowledged everything in saying this.
Towards the end, monks and devotees rushed to Udbodhan house from near and far to have a last glimpse of Holy Mother. But they all assembled downstairs because no one was allowed to see her. When Holy Mother's attendant informed her of the innumerable visitors, the compassionate mother said in a feeble voice, "My child, those who have come to see me, those who have not, and those who will come in the future, tell them that my love and blessings will be bestowed on each of them." During her final 3 days, Holy Mother seldom uttered a word and always remained indrawn. She felt annoyed if anyone tried to draw her out. Gradually, she lost the power of speech. Towards the end, she said to Brahmachari Barada, "Barada, fan me. Don't go away from me." When Barada wept, the mother consoled him, saying, "Sharat is there. Why should you be afraid? The master always exists. He will look after all here and hereafter."
Now, there it is again, you see. Let us hold these reassurances to our hearts. If we care and are faithful to the Master and to the Mother, this is what is so for us. So please read that again, dear. These amazing, compassionate, and far-seeing promises that she left.
During her final 3 days, Holy Mother seldom uttered a word and always remained indrawn. She felt annoyed if anyone tried to draw her out. Gradually, she lost the power of speech. Towards the end, she said to Brahmachari Barada, "Barada, fan me. Don't go away from me." When Barada wept, the mother consoled him, saying, "Sharat is there. Why should you be afraid? The master always exists. He will look after all here and hereafter." Sarala recalled Holy Mother's last moment. From the morning of her last day, the mother's breathing trouble started. During the previous day, my stomach had been upset and I felt very weak. But Sharat Maharaj asked me to eat rice and soup in the mother's room and stay with her. Her breathing difficulty was so intense that it was hard to look at her face. One could hear that breathing sound from the first floor to the third floor. Her eyes were so swollen. The cause of this horrible suffering was that she had initiated many people without any discrimination and had absorbed their sins. The whole of Udbodhan house was packed with monks and devotees. Sister Sudhira and I remained seated near the mother's feet the entire night. Yoginma brought a small jar of water and asked me to dip the mother's toe in it to sanctify the water. While she was breathing, I began to put Ganges water into her mouth, drop by drop. Gradually, the sound of her breathing became fainter and fainter. Finally, it stopped. It was after 1 a.m. Swami Saradananda wrote in his diary, dead. Tuesday, July 20th, 1920, Holy Mother in peace and glory of Mahasamadhi at 1:30 a.m. night. According to the Hindu calendar, the day begins at sunrise, whereas according to the Gregorian calendar, it begins at midnight. So by the Gregorian calendar, Holy Mother passed away at 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday, 21st July 1920. Swami Nikhilananda wrote, on 21st July 1920, about 1 o'clock in the morning, it became evident that Holy Mother's last moments were at hand. The attendants began to chant the Lord's name. Half an hour later, the mother breathed deeply several times and entered into deep samadhi. Peace-eyed slumber settled over her body, which, though ravaged by a long illness, suddenly relaxed and gave out a celestial light.
Now, this is the experience of these people who were with her. Her body relaxed and gave out a celestial light. That light is still shining on us. That was her last gift to us. Light, more light, Brahmananda said. Is there no end to it? Holy Mother's last act was to reflect this divine glory as this light, celestial light. May we bathe in it. May we feel it. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Any comments? Anything anyone would like to say?
Aimaji,
Yes,
Yes.
Shai.
can you read that whole paragraph again?
I sure will. I was going to. I'm glad you
Thank you.
asked. Okay. Swami Nikhilananda wrote on 21st July 1920, about 1 o'clock in the morning, it became evident that Holy Mother's last moments were at hand. The attendants began to chant the Lord's name. Half an hour later, the mother breathed deeply several times and entered into deep samadhi. Peace-eyed slumber settled over her body, which, though ravaged by a long illness, suddenly relaxed and gave out a celestial light. Many of her devotees were deceived by this radiance and thought she was still with them. Swami Arupananda said,
Hold on just a moment.
okay, any comments, Shailesh?
Yes, anything you'd like to say?
No, I just wanted to listen it again. Thank you.
All right, dear. Anyone else? Anything at all? How blessed we are to have gathered together to hear this epic tale of the mother's departure from her physical presence. But no, absolutely know that she has not gone anywhere. She is absolutely here with us, even as we're listening to this story of her passing away. She has made herself known to many. And if you pray for that, if you yearn for that, it could easily happen to you as well. Again, anything else from anyone before we read on? Okay, please go ahead.
Swami Arupananda said, what a wonder. As a result of prolonged suffering, the mother's body was completely emaciated and reduced to only skin and bone, pale and worn out, and thus it looked at the time of death. When her prana, which is life force, vanished from the body, Sharat Maharaj asked her woman attendants to replace her cloth with a new one, make a new bed, and place her body on it. Incense was lighted near her bed. Grief-stricken, all sat around the mother's body. Suddenly, someone saw that the mother's face had become radiant and a halo appeared around it.
Halo.
Halo. That's right. Suddenly, someone saw that the mother's face had become radiant and a halo appeared around it. He cried out, "Look, look, the mother's face has become illumined." Everyone cast a glance on the mother's face, wondering. They were looking at one another and asking themselves, from where was this radiance suddenly appeared? We have never seen such a thing before. Everyone's heart burst into delight and astonishment. They began to sing bhajans, especially songs glorifying the Divine Mother.
Those were no doubt some of the hymns from the Chandi.
Yes.
These are some of the hymns, but also Swami Abhedananda had written a number of hymns in glory and praise of the Mother. So perhaps they were singing some of those as well. Is there a footnote that says?
There is a footnote. That's what I was looking, Brother Shankara, where I missed. That is about the Mahasamadhi, Holy Mother in peace and glory of Mahasamadhi at 1:30 a.m. night. And then that note says, the next day, as the General Secretary of the Ramakrishna Order, Saradananda wrote a short note to all the centers. Yesterday, our most venerable mother journeyed to Kailasa about the abode of Shiva. Please perform special worship to the Master and the Mother on the 13th day. That is the note for her Mahasamadhi.
Now, the 13th day is significant because it is said that the subtle body of the person who has passed away remains near their physical body, though they're no longer within the physical body, and even if the physical body is cremated, they will remain even near those cremains, the cremated remains, until the 13th day. This is why Swami Sharadananda was asking that a special worship be performed on the 13th day, because that would be the day that Mother's subtle body freed itself from any last attachment to the physical body, even the cremated remains. And this is why it's very important that that the body be cremated during this 13 days, any rites and rituals associated with that be done. And it's even best if a memorial service, if it is going to be held during those 13 days, because the person who is being memorialized can actually be with those who are singing their praises and speaking their praises in a memorial service. So that's why the significance of the 13 days. Any comments or questions from anyone? All right, dear.
Brother Shankara, thank you so much for that explanation. I think I completely agree with you that the memorial service should be done within those 13 days. I think I was reading something after my cousin uncle passed away, my dad's cousin actually, and so that 13 days, that subtle body which is about to travel, it is forming, and on the 13th day is completely formed. That's what they say. And so it takes 13 days. And you're right that that person is very near, and it's always good to have good thoughts. And there are certain rituals about reading Garud Puran during those 13 days, so that the soul also understands that now that, you know, I'm gone, the body is gone, my detachment has to begin now, and I have to detach, and I should be ready to move on to the next world or the next journey. And it's written in the Shastra. Then it's but yeah, that's what those 13 days are very important.
Thank you very much, Shailesh, for adding that. And the more we understand, the more profoundly we can appreciate the departure of anyone that we know or care about, and know that, as Shailesh just said, so important. Anything you're going to do that you want that person to know about, do that during those 13 days, and they will be able to hear and understand, even if it's not in their language. These are mysteries, but it's said to be so.
In some communities, they celebrate the 11th day.
Well, there are
Yes.
those that celebrate the 9th day. There are those that celebrate the 11th day. But the 13th day, this is pretty universally understood. There must be something that these people know or believe about what happens on the 11th day. Perhaps that is the day, as Shailesh was pointing out, there seems to be some gathering together of what is to be the subtle body. And perhaps that is the day on which it is complete. And then there for another 2 days, they remain in that completed subtle form. I have no idea, but I know that there are those, I agree, that there are those who think that the first 9 days are very important, the first 11 days, and then the 13 days. So, you know, many legends, many mythologies are there about death. But the thing that we can understand, that there is some truth behind it. There always is some great truth behind it. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, both of you.
You know, if nobody has anything to add, I'll just add something. Brother Shankara, the Garud Puran is very specific, and it's in very detail, and there are so many detailed things explained in it. And because it's been written for such a long period of time, and nobody knows when it was written, but it has been verified by people that I was just reading today that when a person leaves, there is an order. There is a very scientific order when the person the body shuts down, and the first time, I think the first is that the taste goes away, the speech goes away, then the taste goes away, and the smell goes away, and the last is the hearing goes away, and
yes, the touch and the hearing are the last two that remain.
Yeah, and they say that on the 13th day, after 13th day, once the body is ready, the person is given an option to move on or to just stay there. And then, you know, those who stay there, we know that they stay behind. But there's a portal opened up, and then that person has to travel to the Yamloka or wherever that person goes to. And it takes, now this is for all the average people now. You know, if Sri Ramakrishna appears to you to hold your hand, then that journey will be different, you know, or some spiritual being or a guru. But for ordinary person, which is written, it says that it takes 1 year to reach that loka where everything is, you know, looked at, your karma and everything, and then you are sent back according to your, or whatever experience you have to do. That's why for that one particular year, that person is not available after the 13th day to the 1 year. And so that on first, that 1 year, that celebration is very important, which is called Varsha Shraddha, which is Varsha and Shraddha, Varsha is 1 year. So it's very, and it's very detailed explain why we have to offer those rice balls when a person is passed away. There are about 6 or 7, because during those journey of 1 year, there are 16 cities the person that visits or destinations, and that food is offered. And there are ways that a person who is very pious will be taken care by devduts, and the person who is not so pious will have to go on a horse or walk, and then people who are not so good, not at all good, I mean, just bad people, they will have to suffer and things like that. But I think, I've been reading and talking to my dad about this, and what I've realized is that this knowledge is so profound, and it is universal, because we see people in our family who will eventually die, or they have died, or we will die. And so these rituals, they are so important that I think everyone should take note of it, not being a Hindu thing, but just have respect and some some space after that person. I remember I was reading somewhere, I think it is one of these Hollywood stars, Sylvester Stallone. His son passed away, who was very young, 23 or 24. And so Sylvester Stallone, he was experiencing this, his son, in his dreams continuously. And he felt that something needs to be done. So he started finding out, and then he found about the Hindu rituals. So he sent the entire family to Rishikesh in India, and they did all the rituals there. And there is a photograph and there is information about it. And so there are people from, obviously from other cultures, who also feel that, if they can do something, even if they don't have to follow the whole religion, but just follow something, those rituals, I think if they brings peace, they definitely, I think it should be done. That's how I see it.
Well, the word "should" is always a dangerous word.
Yeah.
Because it brings up the idea of dogma and must do. But it's interesting that Sylvester Stallone was drawn to the Sanatana Dharma way of doing this, when by his name, Sylvester Stallone, one would imagine that he comes from an Italian family. And many of these parallels are there in the Catholic traditions about what is done on behalf of the deceased, and the timings and all this business, and last rites and all. So, and the fact that if you are one of Jesus's own, the understanding is that Jesus is there to receive you. So, and of course, the 1 year is a very traditional period of grieving, of mourning, and things are done during that year. It's not much respected anymore, but then what would we expect at the end of the Kali Yuga, when all of Dharma has been so deeply compromised? So it's good to be reminded of these things, and it's good for us to we should do what we believe is auspicious. This is the should. If there is a should, we should decide for ourselves and do what we believe is auspicious, which may be nothing at all. So, any other comments or questions from anyone? All right, dear.
Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Yes. So in that line, I think what we're talking about is is so important to know your dear ones' wishes, what they want, what they believe in, and what will give them peace ahead of time. So then you're doing to their satisfaction and they get peace ultimately.
Yes, that would be a very important component of it. What do they want? In the ancient tradition of what is now Mexico, what is now observed as Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. This is very much observed. What were the person's wishes, and what were their favorite things, and so all of this is given great and serious attention on the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos.
Brother Shankar,
Yes, dear.
of course, with all the Puranas and things that are said, we come to know the benefit to the person who has left. But I think these rituals also have a great value for the people who are left behind.
Well,
Uh,
of course they do, dear. You're
uh,
absolutely right.
rather than an abrupt, okay, done, and then everybody go about, and most workplaces give 3 days bereavement or whatever. I remember, like, when my father passed away, the whole family, we went to grandma's place, and for 13 days there was something going on, and food and the companionship, so the grieving together was so beneficial for us to put a closure.
Yes, you're so right, dear. And this is why there should be respect for that mourning period. And of course, in other traditions, there are other, within the Jewish tradition, the Hebrew tradition, the period is 10 days. And so the body is given great respect. People, a minyan, as it is called, of 10 people sit constantly with the body, chanting prayers, voicing reminiscences. It's a very long memorial service, is what it is. And it's called sitting Shiva. Now, I don't think there's any coincidence in the fact that the syllables Shiva are there. What the connection is, I do not know, but I don't believe that that's coincidental. Shiva being the transformer, the destroyer. So the Yama works for Shiva.
Brother
So,
Shankara, this is Jeff.
yes, Jeff.
I've always wondered about the Shiva versus Shiva connection too. I wanted to bring up what I have heard about Dia de los Muertos, if I'm saying that correctly. And that is one way that families celebrate it is to pack a picnic meal and bring a couple of bottles of wine or something to put on the tombstone, and they go to the cemetery and they feast and party with their departed loved ones as they remember them. And I think that's very touching and sweet.
Yes, and it's done typically and traditionally, it's done at night. It's done during the night. They'll sit with them from dusk until dawn. And as you say, feed them, give them gifts of things that they like. And this is particularly done with children. There's pictures of them are there. There's a little altar called a mesa, which simply means table, but sometimes it's very elaborately decorated, and always, at least always where I've seen anything of it, there is at least one picture of the beloved, sometimes many pictures with other members of the family and so on. So Dia de los Muertos is a very, very important tradition and very much observed in Mexico and in the parts of the Southwest that are still very Hispanic. And also wherever, I suspect there were Dia de los Muertos observances here in Atlanta. Certainly there would have been in Florida. Anything else from anyone, dears? All right, we have a few minutes left. Please read on, dear.
Okay. At that time, there was no telephone in Udbodhan house. Swami Saradananda immediately sent Vibhuti Ghosh to Belur Math with the sad news. Swami Shivananda sent most of the monks to Udbodhan house to see her and to bring her body to Belur Math. They arrived in the early dawn. It was a sight to see. Swami Saradananda, Nirmalananda, Dhirananda, and other monks, M. Shantiram Ghosh, Kiran Datta. Kiran Datta has a small little side note here, Brother Shankara.
Yes,
I will
please.
read that. Kiran Datta, according to Brahma Gopal Datta, his father, Kiran Chandra Datta, gave money to Swami Dhirananda to buy sandalwood and ghee for the mother's cremation. That's why there is a
Thank you.
special note.
So that's who provided the necessaries for the cremation fire.
Kiran Datta, Dr. Durgapada Ghosh, Yoginma, Golapma, Mahamaya Mitra, Sudhira, and other women devotees stood encircling the mother silently with folded hands. Varada continued fanning her. Grief-stricken, Saradananda went to his room and lay down on his stomach, pressing his face into the pillow. Ishananda wrote, in the morning, the mother's face became very serene, and the color of her body gradually turned bright. Yoginma called Sharat Maharaj to see it. Maharaj came, saw the mother's divine body, offered a handful of flowers at her feet, and bowed down. Swami Gaurishwarananda reminisced. After the mother's passing away, Sharat Maharaj left her room, went downstairs to his room, and cried. After some time, Yoginma called him from upstairs. Sharat, come upstairs and see. What more is there to see? Replied Sharat Maharaj with tearful eyes. Yoginma answered, see what you have never seen before in your life. He went upstairs and was dumbfounded to see the mother's luminous face. He bowed down, touching his head to her feet, and then returned to his room downstairs. Sarada said, it was heartbreaking to see the mother's face when she was ill, and now her face revealed a dazzling beauty, exactly like the face of Mother Durga in an image.
Oh, my goodness.
We dressed her in a silk cloth with a thin red border. 2 photographs were taken of the mother's body. The first one was taken in her room without any people around her. She is seen lying down on her bed. Her face and feet are visible. The second picture was taken downstairs in the courtyard of Udbodhan house. The mother is seen lying on a cot covered with flowers. Her serene face shows that she has just gone to sleep. Some of her disciples and devotees are standing on the other side of the cot. Brahmachari Bharada is holding a palm leaf fan. Swami Shantananda, Maheshwarananda, Avyaktananda, Boshi Sen, and others are visible in the picture. The mother's disciples put red paint on the soles of her feet and made many footprints as mementos. Page 750 has her body and all Swami's surrounded her body, Brother Shankara.
Yes, I see the picture.
Yes, yes. If anybody has the book, they could see it. In the morning, a large crowd poured into Udbodhan house. The mother's body was brought downstairs and placed on a cart that was beautifully decorated with flowers and garlands. The devotees came one after another, bowed down to her, and took their last view of the mother. At 10:30 a.m., the monks and devotees lifted the mother's cart on their shoulders and began to walk from Bagbazar to Belur Math via Baranagur. Swami Saradananda led the funeral procession barefoot, and hundreds of monks and devotees followed him. It was a hot summer morning. Swami Maheshwarananda, who was mother's disciple and physician, was a tall man. He held an umbrella above the mother's face to protect her from the sun. Some parts of Kosipur road were paved with big pieces of stone and some parts with asphalt. All of the monks and devotees walked barefoot, so they got blisters because of the heat. But they did not feel any pain, as they were experiencing an indescribable, ecstatic joy. The monks and devotees sang devotional songs, Ramanam Sankirtan, throughout the journey. On the way, many other people joined the procession with flowers and incense. Finally, the procession reached Kurigat in Baranagar on the east bank of the Ganges. A big boat from the monastery was waiting to receive the mother's body, and several rented boats were also there to ferry others. Swami Sankarananda was the helmsman of the mother's boat, and other monks rowed it to Belur Math on the west bank. I can stop here if you want, Brother Shankara. It's 6:27.
I think that's a good idea.
Good stopping point there. So if you want to comment or anyone wants to.
Yes. As someone remarked, I believe last week, the description is so good that we can watch this like a movie in our minds.
Feel like we're walking there.
It's a good thing for us to do. It's very auspicious for us to think about the mother's departure and to know, as was said earlier, that the mother has not gone anywhere. Mother is when the master left, the mother, being a human being, as well as a goddess, she wept and she was beginning to behave as a Hindu widow would behave, and so on. I won't go into the details, you can read it in the book. But Sri Ramakrishna appeared to her. He just, as if his physical form was suddenly there. And he said, "What are you doing? You're not a widow. Stop behaving as a widow. I have not gone anywhere. I'm only in the next room. I've just gone to the next room. I'm just behind the curtain." And so that's how the mother is too. And they promised that they would remain with us. The promise is that they would remain with us for these 200 years until 2086. And then they would take human form again for their own purposes, completely unknown. They would not be in any way known that time. And so the date, as we understand it, is 2086. They will return as a group of minstrels known as bauls, those people that Sri Ramakrishna chooses to come with him. And Mother, of course, comes with him. That's a given. As she said herself, we read not too long ago, she comes with all the incarnations. So she will be there, but then there will be many others as well. Just how many, who knows? But they will not be known. But they will bring another great wave of spirituality into the world. And what happens after that, the Lord only knows. But Swami Vivekananda gave us a hint when he said, I have given them enough, in other words, his teachings, I have given them enough for 1,500 years. And of course, this was said shortly before his death in 1902. So that has a while to run yet. And this is the transition, we're told. This is not, 1,500 years was not specified, but there's a transition period between the end of the Kali Yuga and the full emergence of the Satyuga or Golden Age. And so one can surmise that Swamiji was hinting or gesturing at how long that would take. Just what happens during that period of time. There are prophecies in the Puranas and in the scriptures, but we don't need to go into that. So anything else from anyone before we move on?
Brother, two things real quickly. Were you saying that it was Swami Vivekananda that was making the prediction about the return of?
It wasn't a prediction. This was Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother said it themselves. He wasn't predicting they would come back in 2086. They themselves said it, both of them. And of course, the Sri Ramakrishna said it of himself. Sharda, Holy Mother, said it of the Master. She said he'll be back in 2086. In 200 years, she said, from the time of his Mahasamadhi in 1886. But of course, then she affirmed later, as we read, that she comes any time that he comes, in whatever form, she's with him. So it's not a prophecy. That's not a prophecy or a prediction. The prediction I was talking about, or it wasn't really a prediction. It's just, he said, Swami Vivekananda said, I've given them enough for 1,500 years. So one can imagine that he didn't mention that date coincidentally or just casually, that it has significance. You said there were two things.
Yes, so thank you for correcting me on that. And the other thing is, I've read somewhere else about the red footprints that
Yes.
were made of the mother's feet being kept with some relics, maybe at Belor Mat or somewhere else. Can you?
Yes, well, of course they are, but you can get copies of them. I believe you can order them from Swami Chaitananda's center, the Vedanta Society of St. Louis. I think you can get copies of those footprints. If you'd like to have a copy of those footprints, I think you can get a color photograph.
That's wonderful. I didn't know that. I'll look into that. Thank
There
you.
may be other places as well, but I'm reasonably certain that Swami Chaitananda's ashram sells images of those footprints. They're certainly not held, like secret or something like that.
Thank you,
Brother,
brother.
I don't have the book. Can anybody hold that picture up to the camera? If you all, reverse it and if it's possible. Otherwise, it's okay.
Is it you mean mother's body?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I can hold it for.
Can you
If you
put a little closer?
can you see it?
Thank you.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, those images are available. You can buy those images. I know you can get them at Vedanta.com. I'm certain from Chaitananda Center as well. I say I'm certain. I'm morally certain. I don't know it as a fact. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. Oh, dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om, Amen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Peace, peace. Peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. And, O dearly beloved, make it so. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we be always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Any final thought from anyone? All right. I can't think of any reason that we won't have class next week. So this is the 6th, so that would be the 13th. I can't think of any reason why we shouldn't have class on the 13th. As we go through the month, there may be at times when we're not going to have the classes, particularly toward the end of the year. But you'll be notified about that. Any final thought? All right, dears. A sweet and great good night to you.
Good night, Brother Shankara. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Good night.